We're also honored to be beginning today's show with a history-making guest. This morning, we are joined by Olympic bronze medalist John Carlos.
That's right, Josh. Not only was John Carlos a decorated track and field star and pro football player, but he also made his mark in a way I'm sure most of our viewers know about. Despite all of his athletic achievements, Carlos is most well known for his show of Black pride and solidarity on the Olympic podium in 1968.
Carlos boldly raised his fist alongside gold medalist Tommy Smith to protest racial segregation in the United States and abroad. The raised fist was also a protest against racism in sports and worldwide. This protest symbol has now become a sign for all injustices and inequality in the world.
For more on this amazing man and the mark he left on the world, we go to our city sports reporter, Nick Faribaugh, who is with the legend himself. Nick?
An icon, a change maker, a legend. I am proud to be joined now by Dr. John Carlos. Thank you for coming on.
Nick, it's my honor to be here. It's great to come back on the campus again. And this is actually my first time having an opportunity to go through the campus and get to see the beauty of the campus, as well as meet a lot of the young students and have the opportunity to share with them.
Your trip to Pittsburgh is obviously for change makers to conversation, but I want to talk with you about your event in 1968.
All right.
You know, the opposing raised fist with two different gloves on each hand with Tommy Smith, the socks. What went into this? You guys almost had a boycott of the games, but why did you guys decide to make this a thing?
Oh, we thought that the Olympic Games was the ideal vehicle to get our message across to society. That was the only opportunity we would have to reach the far ends of the earth, so to speak, at the Olympic Games. But yet and still, we wanted to symbolize certain things. So, you know, like Mr. Smith had a black scarf that he put on his neck for Black pride. I had beads on my neck to symbolize the lynching that had been taking place before my time, hence my time, and during my time. And then we all of the black athletes were wearing black socks in their races. We didn't wear shoes out there to illustrate the poverty that was taking place in the United States. You know, we felt once again, this is the greatest country in the world and people shouldn't be running around trying to find shoes to go to school. And then I didn't have my uniform dress zipped up in protocol, so to speak, because I thought about my mom and dad in terms of them being blue collar workers in the country, and the blue collar workers was the gut of this nation. And they're the least respected and honored for what they do. So I didn't want to leave them out. So I went out there to represent the blue collar workers as well. I had a black jersey on over my USA uniform. People ask me, what was that for? I say, because I covered my USA jersey because I was actually ashamed of America. I felt America could do so much more, and they put up the pretense to the rest of the world that we're this great nation. But I was ashamed because they was putting up this pretense. And I said, I'm shameful because we can sit down and resolve these issues if we take the time. And they refused to do it at that particular time.
Now, the action was immediate out of this response. Let's take a look at that right now.
The sixth day was the most dramatic so
Thanks
far.
to men like Tommy Smith and John Carlos.
Tommy Smith and John Carlos.
Tommy Smith and John Carlos.
The Olympic 200 meters gold and bronze medalists had been suspended by the United States
They were
Olympic
ordered
Committee.
out of the Olympic Village and were suspended by the U.S.
Negro
Olympic Committee.
athletes wear buttons reading Olympic Project for Human Rights.
Extricated from society.
Racial
The
protest.
victory ceremony, unfortunately overshadowed by politics.
There were some boos in the stadium last night.
Did the rules and traditions of the games were violated by the actions of Smith and Carlos. Doubtless the preponderant weight of American public opinion will support the committee, but nothing is solved really.
Now, John, it was you, Mr. Smith, and Peter Norman from Australia. He wore a badge, the Olympic for Human Rights Project badge in solidarity. Talk me through how that happened and your relationship throughout the rest of Mr. Norman's life.
Well, Peter is a man's man. You know, Peter knows what he saw in life, what he agreed with in life, what he didn't agree with in life. He was one that would take the bull by the horn, so to speak. If he felt something was wrong, he was going to try and correct it and make it right. Unfortunately for him, the country that he was living in at that particular time had the same values as South Africa at that particular time relative to people of color. And by him lending support to the demonstration by wearing the Olympic Project for Human Rights badge on his uniform. He didn't do any more than put the badge on, but merely because he chose to support us in this quest. He was ridiculed. He was shamed. I mean, they did everything they could to destroy this man. And eventually they got to him physically because he had a heart attack and died at a very young age, I might say.
Now, you were pallbearers at his funeral. What did that relationship mean to you guys from 1968 on to 2006?
Well, you know, we were looking forward to getting together. We was looking forward to a reunion, Tommy, Peter, and I. And I'm sitting home in my house thinking about this reunion, and the phone rings. And it was Peter's nephew, and he called me to tell me that Peter's gone. And I said, gone where? And he said, man, he's dead. And I was like in a state of shock and hurt. And I remember telling my wife, I said, you know, Peter died. I said, I don't know how I'm gonna get to Australia. I said, but if I have to start walking today to get there, I'm gonna be there at his service. And fortunately, things worked out when we were able to be there. There was 3,000 people that came into this armory to honor Peter Norman. And when I gave my speech, I mean, I told them I applaud the fact that they was there in his demise. But I said, how many of you were there when he came back from Mexico City to lend support for who he was as a humanitarian? You know, quite a bit of them was in tears after that because they had to reflect on themselves in terms of how they might have responded to him as this young athlete.
The great John Carlos, everybody. And you can have an opportunity to speak with John Carlos tonight at 6:30. Changemakers in Conversation. It's at Alumni Hall. It's at 6:30 at the 7th floor in the auditorium at Alumni Hall. First annual Changemakers in Conversation for Black History Month. The legend himself, John Carlos, will be there speaking.
Incidentally, Herb Douglas, I want to give a shout out to you. I know you're here in the city somewhere, one of these hospitals here. I'm going to break the door down, man. I'm going to get in to see you sometime today. I love you. You're a great representative for Pitt. You've always been that way. I hope I get a chance to ride by your track and see your name up on the marquee.
Dr. John Carlos, everybody. Thank you for coming on. The legend himself, Dr. John Carlos, again, make sure to go to the Alumni Hall, 6:30 tonight. I'm City Sports reporter from Pitt to the Point, Nick Faribaugh. Jamie, Josh.
Thanks, Nick. And of course, Mr. John Carlos, not every day you get to see an American icon walk through these doors.